here, and we welcome both our audience in-house and our audience that's online. I do need to apologize for last month. We had a bit of a computer glitch, and if you were hoping to watch us online last month, it didn't happen. So we always welcome you to have you come here in person, but tonight's presentation is online, so you have a choice. I'd like to acknowledge our other team members. I'm Jill Lilly, and I am the chapter coordinator. But we have Amy Lorick here, who's from Penn State Office of
Center for Healthy Aging.
Thank you, Center for Healthy Aging. And we have Brandon in the back, Packard in the back. He is with Foxdale. And we have quite a few other members that you'll see over the months if you continue to come in here. ACAP is a collaboration of local chapters across a growing geographic footprint. ACAP was begun in North Carolina. It now has chapters in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and actually brand new in Atlanta, and is growing nationally. ACAP offers educational programs each month, and although they are specifically designed for adult children of aging parents, they are open to anyone. If you would miss a talk, want to share it with a friend, go to that chapter's website or to the ACAP website to find the video link. And if you would like to know about upcoming programs, interested in learning more, go to acapcommunity.org. If there's a chapter in your area, such as Center County, click on that chapter. There's a drop-down list, and then once on the chapter site, you can click Contact Us and give us your contact information. If there is not a chapter in your area, feel free to look around and learn a little bit more about ACAP. To receive program e-bites, click on the Contact tab in the ACAP community website, give us your contact info, and let us know that you would like to receive monthly invites. ACAP's growing. As I said, we have a new chapter in Atlanta. If there's not one in your area and you think it would be meaningful, please let us know. Just send us your contact information through the Contact Us page on the ACAP community website. We do respect your privacy and will not share your email to anyone else. We could not do this without our core sponsors, and we're so grateful for their support. Those sponsors are Foxdale Village, Encompass, Juniper, Brookline, Penn State Health, Center County Office of Aging, and Grain Hospice. And with that, I would like to introduce Cindy Keith, who is the owner of Mind and Memory Care. She is a CDP, I had to look that up, which is a certified dementia practitioner, and also an RN. She specializes in providing guidance and information to families and facilities dealing with loved ones and residents with any type of dementia. If you have any questions, I know that Cindy would prefer that you hold those to the end. If you want to make a note of a question, feel free. If you are online, make those questions and comments in chat, and I will follow along and relay those then to Cindy. And I guess with that, I'll pass this over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for asking me to speak. Nice to see you, Amy, from Penn State. I met her in different venues through Penn State. I am a graduate of Penn State. That's where I got my RNBS. Okay, we're going to talk about dementia and caregiving. And I'm going to give you a brief overview and have time for questions at the end. And as she said, my business is Mind in Memory Care. That stands for Moving and Nurturing Directions in Memory Care. And I do phone conference calls nationwide. So if you have a relative in California and one in Michigan, we can get them together on the phone and talk about what the problems are. Or I can come to the home and meet with as many people as you like to answer questions about your loved one. So let's first talk about the most common types of dementia. Now, dementia is the umbrella term. There are many, many different kinds of dementia under that umbrella, and Alzheimer's is the most common type. So when I say Alzheimer's, I'm talking about a type of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common type, and it's really hard to figure out how long a person is going to live with Alzheimer's. I have seen them go from diagnosis to death in a matter of months, or they can live as long as 20 years. There's just really no way to tell. Short-term memory loss is the hallmark sign of Alzheimer's. This is where they gradually stop remembering things that just happened this morning or yesterday, or, for breakfast, I'm ready for breakfast. Where's breakfast? Well, you already had breakfast. No, I didn't. It's that kind of a thing. Short-term memory loss. They generally retain the long-term memories for a long time. Lewy body dementia. How many of you have never heard of Lewy body dementia? Okay, Lewy body dementia is recognized by some experts as being the second most common type of dementia. How did it get to be the second most common type and you've never heard of it? Well, it was often misdiagnosed for years as Parkinson's dementia. And that's because some of the symptoms mimic a Parkinson's dementia. And it's important, if you believe your loved one has a form of dementia, to go to the doctor and get them checked out and to get Lewy body ruled out or confirmed, because a lot of the medications they give for behavior control in the other dementias make Lewy body worse and they can die quicker. So that's important. And what they look for, what the doctor's going to look for, since you can't take a piece of your brain and put it under the microscope, fluctuating cognition. This is really hard for families to understand. For one day, 1 week, 1 month, they're fine. They don't seem to have any forgetfulness, no dementia. And then, all of a sudden, one day they can't remember how to use the telephone. How can you have dementia one day and not the next? Doesn't make sense to families. So they think, oh, well, he's just having a bad day, and that's why there's such a delay in diagnosis. So fluctuating cognition. Visual hallucinations is another sign that doctors will look for. Now, they don't have to have all these signs, but this is one that the hallucinations are very vivid oftentimes, and they're not necessarily upsetting to the person with dementia. They can tell you they see 3 little people standing right over there, and exactly what they look like and what they're wearing. I'm surprised you can't see them. The third thing is spontaneous motor features of Parkinson's. This is where they're fine, they can walk, no problems, for days, weeks, months, and then all of a sudden one day they fall 3 times in one day because they can't get their feet to do what they want them to do. My father had Lewy body dementia, and this is the last story in the book, if you've read that. And one day I called, he was in Oregon, and the phone rang and rang, and he answered it, and he was all out of breath. I said, Dad, did you have to run to get the phone? And he said, no. He said, I was sitting on the sofa reading, and I heard the phone ring, and I got up to answer it, and I fell because my feet wouldn't move. And that's exactly what it is. They just won't move the right way. So spontaneous motor features of Parkinson's. And another symptom that can occur years before any other symptoms is REM sleep disturbance. REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep. We must have REM sleep every night because this is when our body rests and repairs. Our muscles are flaccid, they're not moving. The only thing that's moving is our eyeballs, and they're moving quickly. During REM sleep, thank heavens it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes people with Lewy body will act out their dreams. One woman said she was sound asleep, heard crashing coming from the living room, ran to the living room to see her husband crawling up the bookshelf, knocking things off, breaking them, totally asleep. And sometimes these dreams that they're having are very vivid and violent. My father was doing hand battle with wolves one night. And one night he was driving the tractor. He kept shouting, "Open the gate, open the gate." And my mom finally said, "It's open." And he drove on through. So if they have 3 or 4 of these symptoms, along with some memory loss, then the doctor's going to say, this is looking like Lewy body dementia. So the third most common type, or the second, depending on the expert, is the multi-infarct or vascular dementia. This is from strokes in the brain. And they will stay at basically a level until they have a stroke in the brain, and then they'll drop in possibly function and cognition. And they stay at that level until the next stroke, and then they drop. And you'll be happy to hear you can have more than one type of dementia at the same time. Not at all unusual. We're not going to stop having strokes anytime soon in the US. And it is very common to have vascular dementia along with Alzheimer's. So you get it both ways that way. Other types, much less common, there are reversible types of dementia, and those are caused by brain tumors, fluid on the brain, vitamin B12 deficiency, major depressive disorder, and they can all be fixed. And when those things are fixed, the dementia symptoms go away. But if you have those, you will act just like you have Alzheimer's. The common denominator in all dementias, except the reversible ones, is that they all result in brain damage. They are all progressive, and they are all fatal, unless they die of something else first, like heart disease or cancer, stroke. So how prevalent is dementia now in the US? From the Alzheimer's Association, they're saying currently in the US, 6.5 million people with Alzheimer's, not all the other dementias. 7 out of 10 of those people live at home still. Age is the biggest risk factor. And after the age of 85, your chances are 1 in 3, almost 1 in 2. Baby boomers, that began in 46 and goes to 64, 19 years, and that's 76 million people. And that's that tsunami that's hitting us right about now of all these baby boomers that are starting to have some dementias. And cost to society, oh my gosh, I don't even know how big these numbers are. Last year alone, $271 billion in unpaid care to people with dementia. So families and friends are providing unpaid care, $271 billion in 1 year. Alzheimer's Foundation of America, that's not the same as the Alzheimer's Association. Alzheimer's Foundation of America believes by 2050, there will be 12.7 million people in the US with Alzheimer's, not including other dementias. COVID, who knows how that's going to affect dementia? Who knows? We just don't, and we won't for a long time. So if you're taking care of a loved one with dementia, what would you say would be a goal of yours with this elder? Does anyone have an idea of what the goal might be when you're taking care of these people?
Safety.
Safety, yeah. That's a big one, yeah. I would say a good objective would be maintain or improve the health, happiness, dignity, and safety of that elder with dementia. Health, happiness, dignity, and safety. So I have 7 points that I consider crucial to remember about behaviors. Now, everyone is different, and they don't all act the same. Toward the end stage of the dementias, they pretty much do act the same, but before that, no. The first one is searching for the familiar. The more familiar things are to a person with dementia, the more calm they are, because they're grounded. They know this and that person and that person. So if they lose sight of you in a store, they're going to panic because you were the only thing in their vision that was familiar and you disappeared. So this is not unlike a person with a hearing deficit. I wear hearing aids. Does anyone else wear hearing aids? Yeah. Okay, so if you're with some people that you may or may not know and they're talking to you and they're telling you something and you only hear about half of the words, you can only make out half of the words, don't you feel a little anxious? Like, what am I missing? You know? This is what people with dementia feel like. They get anxious because the words don't compute in their brains. And we're speaking much too quickly for them. I don't know about you guys, but when my granddaughters talk, I'm constantly happy. Even when I can hear what they're saying, they just speak so quickly, I can't catch it. So they're listening and searching for something familiar. They're listening for those familiar words. They're often afraid. So when you see that uncomprehending look on their face, or the fear or confusion, know that you must remain calm and present them with something familiar, a familiar object, or familiar words or person, something they can identify with. The second crucial thing, get in their reality and out of your own. And this is so important. And it's so hard for spouses to do. I don't know how many times I've heard, usually a wife, say to her husband, he's just doing that to make me mad. Well, maybe he used to do that to make you mad, but now he's not doing that to make you mad. He can't think that far in advance. So in order to calm and redirect their thinking, you may need to resort to using what I call therapeutic fibs. We don't call them lies, because remember what the goal is: to keep them calm, happy, safe, with dignity. So if your 90-year-old mother says to you, where is your father? He was just here a minute ago. I need to talk to him. Now, where is he? What would happen if I gently remind her that Dad is dead? That's the truth, the brutal truth. One of two things is going to happen. Either she is going to get angry at me and tell me, why are you telling me such a horrible thing? You're lying. Why would you say that? He was just here a minute ago. That doesn't meet the objective. Or she's going to believe me and grieve all over again. How could she forget her husband died? Does that achieve the objective? No. Instead, I'm going to say something like, you know what, I don't know where he is. Well, that's true. I don't know where he is. He's either up there or down there. But I'm just going to give her hope she's going to get what she wants. But if I see him, I'll tell him you're looking for him and you want to talk to him right now. Okay? Okay. So you stall. Third thing, find out what the triggers are for behaviors. So the one facility that I worked in, there was this elderly gentleman that every afternoon at a certain time, he would stop what he was doing and head for the nearest exit door to go home. Where was he going? He's a dairy farmer. He's going home to milk the cows. And the first time a new staff person tried to stop him and tell him no, he didn't have cows anymore, he lived here, he punched her. He knew he had cows, and they needed milking because he just milked them this morning. Yeah. So what was the trigger for that behavior? The time of day. The time of day. Sundowning is also triggered by the time of day. They still don't know what causes sundowning, but it is triggered by the time of day. It's usually later in the afternoon. A person can be calm and happy all day long, and usually it doesn't happen every single day. But then when they're sundowning, they're active, they're agitated, they're on the move. We had one woman that would tool around in the facility in her wheelchair, pleasant as could be, but when she was sundowning, you could not keep her in that wheelchair. She was up, holding on to every piece of furniture. She was on a mission. So sundowning it's hard to work with, but you need to find out things that might work for them, that might interest them. I heard a story, and I've never seen any studies to verify it, but adding weight to the lower body might help during sundowning. Now, you can't tie an anchor to their butt, so maybe have them sit down and put a heavy photo album in their lap and reminisce with them. I don't know if it works, but it's worth a try. As far as triggers, another woman, she could not have clothing on that required being pulled off over her head. She would have a catastrophic reaction to that. So the trigger was the clothing going over her head. So you may never know what the triggers are for certain behaviors, but you should try to find them if it's a behavior that's being repeated. The fourth thing, nurturing, caring, comforting response, not patronizing. Not patronizing. Even if they are upset, you're not going to get far with them if you get upset, or if you try to hurry them, or if you blame them, or if you argue with them. You're not going to win. You're just not. You have to monitor your responses at all times. Just keep that objective in mind. How can I make him happy or her happy? How can I make him calm? Give them hope they're going to get what they want. How can you say they're going to get what they want? Think of a way to say that. Saying things like, when your mother comes out of the bedroom and you're rushing to get to the doctor's office, and you gotta go now, come on, Mom, we're ready to go. And she walks out, she's wearing her slip and her slippers. Rather than say, Mom, you can't go to the doctor's office wearing that. She obviously thinks she can. So it's just going to upset her if you drag her back in the bedroom and try to make her put clothes on. Instead, you say something like, you know what, that's lovely, but I remember the last time we were in that doctor's office, it was freezing cold. Let's see what else we can put on so you're not cold. Something like that. Or when Dad comes out with his underwear over his slacks. Yeah, it might be funny, but you can't laugh at him. Well, that looks pretty good, but you know what I think might work a little better, make you more comfortable? That kind of thing. Use humor, the next one, when appropriate. Laugh with them and not at them. They can still get a joke sometimes in the middle stages, certainly in the early stages, the middle stages of dementia, they can get a joke. So laughter is great. Now, one woman, I used to come up behind people and would rub their backs a little bit, and they would often say, oh, that feels so good, and I'd say, quarter. And they'd slap my hand or say, put it on my bill. And this woman, she was a little bit grumpy that day. I did that, and I said, quarter, and she goes, good luck with that. The sixth, one of the most important things you can remember, your body language speaks volumes. Volumes. Because these people can't understand all the words you're saying, they're going to be looking at you and reading your body language to see if you're sad or happy or upset or excited. They're going to really go by body language, more so than the words, as they begin to lose more and more words. This body language becomes more and more important. So pasting smiles on your face and calm, gentle approaches, it's going to go a lot further than a hurried approach. And, if you are in a hurry, and come on, Mom, we really have to hurry up here. I know, yeah. No, that's not gonna, she's gonna see your body language and know you're not real happy. And it's gonna upset her because she knows you're not happy. And are you mad at her? Um, you need to become a good actor, is what it boils down to. You really need to become a good actor. 7, validate the emotion and redirect the behavior. If an elder with dementia is angry, sad, happy, frustrated, and they're doing something you want them to stop doing, you need to get in their reality first by showing them some empathy. You walk into the kitchen and your husband has a pair of pliers in his hand and he said, "Look, honey, I fixed the toaster for you." And there's pieces of the toaster laying on the counter. Oh, gee, I am so happy I have a husband that is as handy as you are. Come with me and we'll go do this. One woman, her husband was out there helping her weed her flower beds, and she would check on him now and then. He was happily pulling the weeds, and then the next time she looked, all the flowers were gone. Every one of them. And she was so upset. She said, "I tried not to show it," but she said, "I was really upset." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "But you have to let it go. Flowers can be replanted." So validate the emotion. He was proud of fixing the toaster, so validate that and then redirect. So let's talk about some common behaviors that you might see and tips on how to cope with them. They become unable to recognize friends or family members. Try to never say the word remember, because they don't. You need to remember, they can't remember. So don't say that. Give verbal cues and preserve their dignity. "Harry, your old golfing buddy Glenn is here to talk to you about golfing today." Okay, that tells him that his name is Harry or Glenn, and you golfed with him. So he doesn't have to struggle to come up with that in his brain. And, "Honey, our lovely oldest daughter, Sharon, is here to see us today." That kind of hints. Inability to comprehend. Short, simple sentences or gestures might be needed. I had a guy in our facility, I'll call him Harry, and I had a visitor's chair in my office, and he would often come in there pretty much every day and sit in the visitor's chair, and he would just doze off or something. And he had Lewy body dementia. And he came in my office one day and he was standing in front of my desk. And I looked up and I said, "Good morning, Harry, how are you?" He said, "I'm fine, honey, how are you?" I said, "I'm good, Harry." I said, "Go take a load off and have a seat." "Okay, honey," he said. And he stood there. And I'm looking down. "Harry, go ahead and sit in that chair over there." "Okay, honey," he said. He walked over and he moved the chair. He's not understanding my words today. Fluctuating cognition in Lewy body. Yeah, so I walked over, I leaned down, I patted the chair, and I said, "Harry, sit here." And then he got it. That's what was needed that day. Sundown, we talked about that. Recognize it and be prepared. Increased activity. Walking is great. The longer you keep them walking, the longer they'll be able to walk, because the brain will eventually forget how to walk. But the muscle memory stays for a while. So the more you keep them walking, the better it is for them. And so, like I said, add weight. I don't know if that'll work. Some activity that they'll take part in. Tell me about that dog that you have the picture of hanging on the wall in your room. What was his name again? He loved that dog, and he loves to talk about it. And so if you can get him talking about that, then he might stop getting into things that he's not supposed to be getting into. Exit seeking, whether they're at home or in a facility. Disguising doors, they have these murals you can put on a door that make them look like a bookshelf or something. That's mainly for facilities, but in your own home, you know those little tiny deadbolts? They're only about this big. Put one way up and way down on the door. They don't think to look up and down, they just know the door won't open. Disabling the doorknob so that it just turns and turns and turns and won't open. And putting a black mat in front of the door can be effective because their vision is affected by dementia, and they have to be at a certain stage in their dementia in order for them not to see a black mat. They see a hole in the floor and they won't step on it. Then you have to move it when you want to go out. Refusals to eat, drink, bathe, or sleep. Most likely, it's going to require a change in your approach. Don't give them choices. Wait and approach again in a different manner if you can. When I say don't give them choices, I mean if you want cake or pie, fine, that's a choice they can have. If you want to get up and go to the bathroom, no. What do you do when they say no? So you just say, come on, I want to go for a little walk, and then you walk to the bathroom. But it is so, so very crucial to keep elders with dementia hydrated and maintain their weights. The dementia diagnosis alone will guarantee they will lose weight. If nothing else changes, even if their diet doesn't change, they will still lose weight. So unless they're obese to start with, you don't want them losing weight. And so hydration is so huge, and for us as well, because even slight dehydration in an elder with dementia makes them more confused and they're higher risk of falling. So for eating, if they say, no, I can't eat, I'm not hungry, I just had breakfast, I don't want another one, when you know they didn't have breakfast. Stay calm, say something like, well, sit here with me while I eat, okay? And maybe just put a little something down in front of them. Or start to chit-chat, place the food in front of them. I was out in South Dakota, this was Oregon, visiting my mom and dad, and we were getting lunch, and my dad always had his lunch at the TV, with the TV tray. And I said to Mom, I'll fix Dad a plate. She said, no, he already told me he can't eat. He's just doesn't feel like eating. He's not hungry. I said, well, let me try something. So I fixed a plate for him, a small plate, and I took it with his can of Boost or Ensure or whatever it was. And I went over and I set it down on the tray. He goes, oh, honey. He said, I told Mom I just can't eat. I'm just not hungry. I said, that's okay, Dad. Don't worry about it. I'll just leave it here and we're going to eat lunch over here. So we did. We ate our lunch. A little while later, I said, Mom, look. And he was finishing up all of his lunch. He didn't even realize he was eating. And if it's a social situation where everybody's eating, chances are they're going to just start eating when everybody else is. I read a story about a woman who was losing a lot of weight, and the husband said, yeah, it's sundowning because pretty much every evening now she gets real anxious when we sit down in front of the TV to eat dinner. That was their habit. Fix a plate and put it, on the TV tray in front of the TV and watch the news or whatever. And she just wasn't eating. She was just picking, and she wanted to get up and pace. And so one night, they were sitting there, and she was picking at the food, and the electricity went off. So the TV went off. And she said, oh, thank heavens. I didn't know how I was going to feed all those people. Who knew? Who knew that's what she was thinking and worried about? It wasn't sundowning. So definitely changing things up. If that's not working, the routine is not working, try eating in a different setting or different room or something. Bathing, a wash up at the sink can suffice. They don't have to be bathed every day. Let them do as much as they can. If they are incontinent, of course, their bottom needs to be washed. That can be accomplished with those, not the little wipes that you see, but the bigger ones. And also, you can give them a fairly decent bath with those bath sheets. Hospitals used to use them. You warm them up, and it feels wonderful to have this rubbed all over you. So take a bath or a shower with them if that's an option. Or ask them to please come in and wash my back for me. And then, oh, you did my back, I need to do yours. That kind of a thing, if that's appropriate. I had a client, a woman who called me, her husband was a former professor at Penn State, and he had dementia and refused to get anywhere near water, wouldn't wash his hands, wouldn't get in the tub or a shower, refused. So she would take him outside with her when she was watering the plants, and she would squirt him with a hose accidentally. Well, that's cold, with cold clothes, and so here, let me help you get those cold, wet clothes off, and she would check his body to make sure everything was fine. He was a fairly clean person, he was continent. And so I said to her, and in the wintertime, that wouldn't work, obviously. Would take him outside and squirt him with a hose, no. So she would get a big towel wet and put it in the microwave and lay it across his lap, and oh, doesn't that feel wonderful, until you take it away and then it's cold and wet. I said, that's only gonna work as long as he's continent. And she said, I know. Well, then he became incontinent. And the first time, she managed to get a brief on him. And what I told her, I said, just make all of his underwear disappear and put the pull-up underwear in the drawer. She did that, he put the pull-up on, but then she could see that it was soaked. And he would not go into the bathroom and allow her to help him. So she finally convinced him to allow her to help a little bit, but as she was starting to take it off, he punched her in the face. Now, this man had never been violent before, but he obviously thought she was doing something she shouldn't be doing. Punched her in the face, and then she had a great sense of humor. She said, have you ever seen a loaded diaper explode? He took it and he threw it across the room. So he ended up having to go to a geropsych ward to get stabilized on medications because you couldn't deal with him because he was incontinent and he wouldn't let anybody help him and he wouldn't touch water. So they did get him stabilized. They sent him back to a facility here in this area, and then he was able to go back home. And she had people coming in to help, and he was allowing them to help wash him up and change him. So you just never know. Sleep issues. Avoid naps. Exercise in the evenings by walking. Steps, I've had people ask me, are steps a good idea? Only until they fall up or down them, but you don't want that happening. So if you can avoid it, avoid steps. Stretches, try melatonin, red night lights. I had a gentleman bring his mother into our facility, and he told me that when he had her in the house, he brought her to his house, his and his wife's home, and he would hear her get up in the middle of the night, because their bedrooms were adjoining, and he would hear her go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, and then she'd come out and open the doorway to the hall, and then she'd go out and she'd wander all over the house. What was she doing? She was looking for something familiar. She didn't know where she was. So he had been in the Navy, and the Navy uses red lights because they don't wake up the brain like white lights do. So he put a red nightlight in her bathroom, and she stopped waking up enough. She just went to the bathroom, saw the bed, and climbed back in. So it's a good option. You can use white noise or soft music if they really like that. If they don't, then don't. Disrobing in public, they have lost those breaks in the brain that say this is not a good idea. But it's crucial to maintain their dignity. Try to figure out if they're hot or cold. We had one woman that would never take her clothes off in public unless she had constipation. And then she'd take clothes off to try and ease the discomfort. Maybe dress them in something that's not easy for them to remove. We had one gentleman that was a very large man. Thank heavens he was a gentle giant, but he was a very large man, and he never liked to keep his clothes on. So his wife brought in those coveralls, with the strap, and we put them on him backwards, so he couldn't do the strap, and that worked fine. He stopped, you could see him messing around every now and then, you couldn't get him down, and then he'd stop. Then he'd go eat plants or something. Agitation and combativeness. I have this book called Elder Rage, or Take My Father, Please, How to Survive Caring for Aging Parents. This is written by Jacqueline Marcel. Both of her parents had dementia, and her father became very violent. And she has a wonderful sense of humor. She's a lovely person. I've spoken to her a couple times on the phone, and this is a great resource. So you can pass that around if you like. You need to keep yourself safe. So many times I've had women, and I address this to women because they're generally not as strong or as big as the men. They will say to me, "Oh, I know he would never hurt me." No. All bets are off when Alzheimer's or some other dementia hits the brain. All bets are off. You can never say never because you just don't know. Consider geropsych. Talk to the doctor about some medication might take the edge off their agitation. If they're working on an infection of some type, this is very important to remember. Usually, if a person starts acting differently than what they normally act like, example, they're sleeping in the middle of the day and they usually never take a nap. Suspect a urinary tract infection. Or they're agitated and they're usually never agitated and you can't figure out why. Suspect a urinary tract infection. Or they fall 3 times in one day. Suspect a urinary tract infection. They're very common. Wandering and pacing is okay unless it's a new sudden behavior. They just need a safe place to wander. And if you need to, go with them. Because like I said, walking is great. Safety for the elder with dementia is a huge issue. You need to child-proof your home. Keep the meds out of sight and out of reach. Keep the car keys hidden. Coats in the closet, hats in the closet, pocketbooks away. We had one woman who never wanted to exit the facility unless she saw her coat and her pocketbook. And then she'd have them on, and then she'd be heading out the door. So keep those things out of sight. Let's talk about falls. And I realize I'm just barely hitting on some of these subjects, but that's because I have a time frame. Falls, all people with dementia will fall eventually. Falls are a given with dementia because the brain will forget how to walk. The goal is to have safer falls. No sharp corners, no throw rugs. I went into a woman's house one night to do a consultation. She had just moved her mother in with her. Her mother had dementia, and she was using a walker. Beautiful home, hardwood floors, big, thick oriental carpets. I said to her, I need you to know that your mother is going to trip on these carpets. Oh my God, are you telling me I have to pick up all my oriental rugs? I said, no, I'm telling you, your mother is going to trip on them. So you need to either block access to them or something, because they will, especially with a walker. Frequently check their shoes for fit and wear. For some reason, people with dementia lose weight in their feet. I don't know why. And so their shoes don't fit right, they flop around. Or they wear them so much that they're wearing down on one side and can tip them over. Have you ever heard of hip savers or safe hips? Hip Savers is the first brand. It's scientifically proven to reduce the incidence of hip fracture when an elderly person fell. They're kind of like football pads, only sleeker. And they're built in. They have multiple different varieties of panties with crotches that remove, or or just have them built into the sides. They have sweatpants with them built into them, and even some with knee pads in. It's called Hip Savers. I had a woman bring her mother to our facility for daycare, and her mother was recovering from a hip fracture. So she was afraid her mom was going to fall. Her mom had dementia. And I told her about Hip Savers. She immediately bought a couple pair, and her mother fell, did not refracture. So she was thrilled with that. Now, Safe Hips is another brand, and I don't know if they're as good as Hip Savers, but they're probably cheaper. Stairs, as I said, people with dementia will have altered ability to recognize things. Their depth perception is going, so they'll either fall up the stairs or down them. So you need to block access to the stairs. No clutter in the home. Bed against the wall. If you have a person living in your home with dementia and you don't share the big bed with them, and they're sleeping in a single bed, you can push it against the wall. That'll keep them from rolling out on that side. And then those pool noodles? Stick one under the edge of the mattress to just lift the mattress up a little bit so it prevents them from rolling out as easily. You can put a mat on the floor, but you have to be aware that if they do get out, that mat on the floor might make them more tippy. So it all depends on the person. And even if you share a bed with that person, as long as they're not getting up at night and using the bathroom, you could put a noodle under that side of the mattress. Night lights, you have to have night lights that make them red. Wandering away from home is a behavior many people don't think won't apply to their loved one. Oh, he doesn't like to go outside, he'll never go outside until he does. Till he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, has a UTI, which you don't know about, and he looks around and he goes, oh my gosh, I need to go home. I don't even know where I am. And out the door he goes, looking for a home, which, was when he was 25 years old. Register them with the Alzheimer's Safe Return Program. You call the Alzheimer's Association helpline. They give you ID bracelets, clothes tags, and I think they also have a tracker watch that people can wear, like a regular watch that maybe has a GPS or something in it. So please check out what is available for help on the Alzheimer's Foundation of America website, the AFA, Alzheimer's Foundation of America. They have a lot of resources for caregivers. So what you're doing, and I'm in no way being judgmental, it's what I am doing with my elderly mother, is I'm waiting for the crisis. You're waiting for the crisis to happen, and it will happen. with every person with dementia, there will be a crisis at some point. They'll fall, or go outside and get lost, or something will happen. So you think about, at some point, you may need to put this elder in a facility. Now, you may have promised this elder to never, ever put them in a nursing home, but you never thought of dementia. Never. And, you could kill yourself, literally kill yourself, trying to take care of that person at home. And what you end up doing is isolating them and you, and giving yourself high blood pressure. And it's not good for them and it's not good for you. So think about facility placement. Go look at the facilities, get your name on lists. You don't have to say yes when they call. Get them on the list. Because this tsunami of elders from the baby boomers with dementia are going to be taking up all these spaces, so you better get on the list. So one huge effect of dementia on families is how stress can really wreak havoc in your life. And I've passed out these handouts on caregiver stressors. So do you have any of those feelings? I mean, I have one or two, and I'm not even caring for somebody with dementia. So if you do have any of these stressors, that's a sign that you could be heading for a depression. And these are the signs and symptoms of depression. And if you have those signs and symptoms, talk to your doctor. They have happy pills. They work wonders. They really do. And you get to feel like you have a handle on things. If you can feel like you're not drowning and have no help coming. So go over it, look over it, take it home, take steps to treat it if it applies to you. I had a woman call me and she said, my doctor told me I have to call you. And I said, why is that? Well, my husband, he's selling all my fur coats. And that's one of the stories in my book, selling all my fur coats. And he was. Well, why is he selling you fur coats? Because he says we have to prepare for death and we don't need them anymore. He was a Marine or something. And he said, she doesn't need any more coats. She doesn't need these coats. So he just, So she was under a lot of stress trying to take care of him at home. So I went to meet with her at the home, and under the guise of trying on these lovely fur coats and maybe buying them, and I gave her all kinds of suggestions about what she could do with it to get rid of the coats and not sell them, and what she could do with him. And we went over her medications, and I don't know if she took my advice or not. She was in a tough spot. But about 6 months later, I read her obituary in the paper. He was still alive. So, yeah, it's serious. Some positive points to remember. Nurture. Nurture the person with dementia. Nurture the entire family. Keep yourself and your loved one as active as possible, doing things you both enjoy. Modified as appropriate. Bowling, they have those little things you can set up in the house. Golfing, they have those things you can set up in the house. Pets, go for a walk, go for a ride out to the paws, see the dogs and the cats, if that's what they love doing. Get a dog, or not necessarily a dog. Get a cat. They're much easier to take care of than a dog. But, whatever's going to make this person happy and still allow you to keep your sanity. Keep socialized as much as possible. Call on those friends. Call on those neighbors. Call on your church friends. If you could spend 2 hours with him tomorrow, I would love it, because I need to go get my hair done. I need to go find my brain. I need to go get my toenails done, whatever. Whatever you need. Maybe I just need to go sit in the mall and read a book. Take advantage of those people. Get yourself away from this elder with dementia in regular time frames so you can recharge yourself. I know it's not easy, but it is crucial for your health and your sanity. You're doing a great disservice to your loved one if you isolate them and yourself. Because when it comes time to put them in a facility, facilities are very social, they're not going to do as well if they haven't seen anybody except you for months and months and months. So socialize. Reminisce, photo albums, scrapbooks. Never say, do you remember this? Who is this? No. You can say, this is a great picture of so-and-so, and if they say, no, that's not, okay, fine, you just move on. You don't argue with them. Humor, use it liberally. They can get it. This Harry that used to come in my office, he was sitting there one morning snoozing, and I sneezed 3 times in a row. And I said, well, Harry, there went the rest of my brains. And he laughed, and he said, mine are already gone. So remember, there is help and support available. Don't hesitate to ask for it. Juniper Village support groups. Usually it's men when I suggest a support group, and I suggest this to all of my clients. They'll say, what do I want to go listen to a bunch of people talk about the problems for when I have enough problems of my own? I said, well, they do talk about their problems, but you learn a lot from that. And inevitably, when they go, they end up really being able to help other people and get a lot out of it. And I've even had clients, men and women, who continue to go to the support group after their loved one passes on because they got so much out of it and they were able to help so much. Support groups are great. I think Juniper Village still has a support group. Does Foxdale?
Yes, we have a Parkinson's support group. We have a Parkinson's support group.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one,
Dementia.
how many other ones
Okay.
we have as well.
Yeah, so you want a dementia support group. The Lutheran Church, Grace Lutheran used to have one, and I don't think that, and probably because of COVID, they might not be doing it now, I don't know. But last I heard, I thought Juniper Village was starting theirs up again. I'm not sure, but call them and go there. Please know that whatever behaviors are driving you crazy today will disappear. They'll all go away as the dementia progresses. And you may find yourself someday wishing you were seeing some of that again, because they are moving on into the final stages of dementia. But good for you for coming to learn how to be a better caregiver. You don't know what you don't know, and knowledge is a tool. So you learn how to best care for that elder. Meet that objective. Maintain or improve the health, happiness, dignity, and safety of the person with dementia. So, books that I recommend. Joanne Koenig-Kost, Learning to Speak Alzheimer's. This is an excellent book. And this is creating moments of joy. Just little, like 1 or 2 pages for suggestions of things that you can do with the person with dementia. So that's helpful. And then there's my book, Love, Laughter, and Mayhem, Caregiver Survival Manual for Living with a Person with Dementia. And I bought a few copies that I can autograph for you, and it is $17.97 with tax. And it is a collection of stories about people with dementia that I've known and loved and worked with in my years as a nurse. And every story teaches a lesson, how to better care for that elder with dementia, as well as yourself, because so many caregivers just don't take care of themselves. So, questions? Yes,
Is there no way to really predict?
can you take your mask down? I'm sorry.
I can't. Is there any way of predicting future violence?
Future what?
Violence,
Violence.
yes, in
Um,
someone with dementia.
If they had a propensity for violence or quick temper in their past, you may see it surface again. They may get extremely frustrated and throw things or something like that. If you're seeing that, that would scare me to think that sometime if I said something wrong, they may try to clock me. So I would be afraid if I saw that kind of behavior. But we had one guy, he was a school teacher, had 3 daughters, a wife, no violence at all in his past. He was walking around the facility, he would shake hands with every person he met, and it was about 2 weeks after he was there, we had no problems with him. He was very cooperative and friendly. And the LPN that evening was knelt down on the floor changing the radio station. He came up behind her, put her in a headlock, and threw her against the glass doors. Fractured her collarbone. And then he just stood there. We have no idea why he did that. He didn't do it after that, but you just don't know. You don't know.
Is medication ever, mismanagement or mixing your meds?
Medication can help with aggression. It can take the edge off of things, but it's always, always, always a guessing game with meds and people with dementia. Always a guessing game. This might work. And if it does, great, but it might not work next year or 6 months down the road. Always a guessing game, but you've got to try some things. Because you can't, live in fear or have someone else near you being fearful. Or if they're, being mean to animals. Yeah.
So how much of their previous, okay, so my mother's living with us. She has been, when she was younger, there was a lot of abuse in the family as a child. She was sexually molested as a child. All this stuff has gone on. And right now, she is to the point that it's very difficult because she feels like she has to prove herself, I guess. And if anything, if we say no, that if we disagree at anything, then she's like, well, she almost goes into this whole different thing. It's not really a panic, but like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't do this right, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do that, and it's always my fault, I'm so sorry, and this whole,
Is she on any anti-anxiety meds?
yes, she is.
Yeah. And is it helping?
It's a little better.
Yeah.
It's a little better. She's on the Boost Bar and Aricept is what she's on for that. It is a little better, but I'm just like, I try to know, I know this, like where she's been, what she comes through,
Mhm.
but it's,
there's no way you can make her forget.
no, I can't. And
And
it's
you
like,
just hope that the brain damage is going to be in the areas that
because,
where those memories reside.
because,
And we had one woman that was a concentration camp survivor.
Yeah.
And she had a mannerism that would drive everybody nuts, including the other residents.
oh yeah,
But, we just did the best we could with trying to work with her. Another woman would just, and I think she had been raped at some point in her past, and we learned to always pull the shades in her room because the bushes outside window, she would have a catastrophic reaction knowing that there were men that were gonna come in the window and rape her.
And yes, the moms are closed. And I took care of one of the ones with the Holocaust survivor, and she was hiding food
Yeah,
under the mattresses because there was never enough food.
yeah,
So you would find, what you didn't realize till room started stinking.
yeah.
No, but yeah, so it's, my mom is very frightened whenever I'm not right there. So it's almost like I'm this security thing.
Is she,
For me to come here, it was like I should be ashamed of myself. I'm leaving my elderly mother there, and no daughter would ever do this. And
she said that to you.
oh, so this is like, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a constant.
Does she like music?
She likes music. I usually hum and sing a lot around the house. So certain music she likes.
You
She
know,
doesn't like my singing, that she did let me know that. But I think, I don't know if this,
I mean, just
it just gets.
keeping things around that she likes, that will help in some little way to relax her. And certainly talking to the doctor and saying, you know, this medication helped a little, but,
Yeah,
you know, can we up it a little?
and she's still, the hard thing of it is part of it, it's like she's
Stuck in that.
almost at times, she's like a toddler. Like if I go to the bathroom and I'm gone for like 5 minutes, she's in a dead panic. So there's that, but then it's also like she knows that she is an adult and she like refuses to allow me to help with her medications. She refuses to, you know, a lot of things like,
Do you have anybody coming in to help you?
no, this is me.
But I mean, would she accept somebody helping her? Does she have social graces that say, oh, this is a stranger in my house, I need to be nice to her? No?
No. She will tell you whatever because she thinks you need to know that.
Yeah.
But it's,
It might be worth a try
but
to
it's,
have somebody come in
Yeah.
knowing that she is going to read them the riot act and everything, but it might, I don't know, you just have to keep trying.
No, it's
It might
just-
help her
you know, I don't know.
to
and
have
it's
somebody to
like-
vent to.
And yeah, well, my husband's great and things were doing good because I just retired because I knew that if I didn't, I knew she's getting to where she needs more care. So I can be there with her and,
Daycare, you know,
I thought about that, but her problem is she doesn't think has a problem. So how do you?
yeah. And just say, I mean, my father was like that. And they often think, you're the one with the problem, I don't have a problem.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And like now we're gonna be going over to the fair, so I have my flowers from the porch. I put them, like there's 3 of our campers are right close together, like all relatives, boom, boom, boom. But I'll take my flowers from the porch. So she will know that these big flowers that's our place. You know, little things I try, and I put a thing on the door, on the refrigerator, a magnet thing, and I said, oh, I had that in my office, I just brought it home. Because she said, well, when did that get there? But that helps her too. But if I were to say I got this because you need this, then she would have run off the deep end on me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. We do have a question from online.
okay.
So I want to be sure we had at least a moment for that. And the question is, how do you recognize early stages of dementia? She says her mom's symptoms were so slight she didn't realize that she had dementia until much later and wished that she had responded a little differently. So I wonder if you have a little advice about paying attention to early signs.
Well, you know, it's very, very difficult because these are our loved ones and we don't want to allow dementia in our lives, in our mother, in our father. No, nobody wants that. And so you see symptoms, you see them forget this, or you see them forget that, and you think, geez, I hope that's not dementia. And you let it go. And you know, the thing is, if they pick up the car keys and don't know how to use them. Or they put the milk in the cupboard. Or they get lost driving to the grocery store. It's those major things that you want to pay attention to. So every single one of us should be going for annual doctor's visits and saying, give me a mini mental test. So they have a baseline. What is our baseline? And then, and I just told my husband Doug that, you know, he said, oh, I'm losing my memory. I said, don't say that. I said, but the next time you go to your doctor, ask for a mini mental test. So that if you think you really are losing your memory and it's not just stress or something working on you, then they can take another test. And if it's the same, now it's probably just stress. Go for some de-stressors of some kind. Take a vacation or drink a bottle of, I don't know, wine. I don't know. But it is scary, and you cannot beat yourself up for not recognizing it sooner, because if you took that person to the doctor sooner, the doctor would have said, well, you know, these symptoms could just be stress. And so they may not have been able to even diagnose it at that point until other symptoms showed up. So yeah, you're looking for the big things, the scary things. Like, that's pretty scary that they put the milk in the cupboard. Okay,
Thank you.
more questions? And I'm sorry I didn't finish answering your question. It's really hard to try and figure out how to get around it. And you may find yourself just saying, well, Mom, that's the best I can do.
That is, and I left and she's like, I should be ashamed and I'm a horrible daughter. I said, well, I'm not ashamed. And that's, okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
Be back.
It'll change.
Yeah.
It'll change.
But it's, yeah, because my aunt, her sister had Alzheimer's. She died in an Alzheimer's unit. So it's,
She what?
she passed away in a Alzheimer's unit. My aunt did. But she got, I told my husband we're going to keep mom there till she gets violent, until, because you know it's coming. It's just when.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's, yeah. So we read our devotions every morning, and that seems to help a little. Play cards every night, and
And let her cheat.
oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Winning is important.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Cindy, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't say that we have next month a program on Medicare and CHIP. That's September the 13th. And in October, actually, there's going to be another presentation on dementia, but it will be from a different angle. So I hope that you found this program to be helpful, and be aware that there are upcoming events this week, even with other chapters that you can log on online and watch them. One's on technology, and the other one I think was advanced care planning, trying to kind of get your ducks lined up before a crisis hits. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we unlive now?
I didn't say tinkle, tinkle. I said twinkle, twinkle.